It was, it's not.
I was hoping
Switch at DD.
Pat was coming.
But yes, that's Bob.
That's about right.
Do you remember him?
Not really. That's why I got a
Okay.
picture, because I had lunch with my ex-secretary
I see.
and I said, do you remember?
Carla, I don't know if you can see all the attendees in the room, but it looks like Pat joined from his iPhone.
We just did. Thank you. We're gonna start. Okay. I call the March 10th Killam School Building Committee to order. And we will do this, Pat. Taking attendance.
Yes, here.
Nancy. Here. John,
I'm here.
Chris.
Yeah.
Sean,
Here.
Ed,
Here.
Greg,
Here.
Kirk,
Here.
and Carla here. Thanks, everyone. Just a quick review of the agenda. We'll do public comment, liaison reports. I'm going to ask to take items 6 and 7 out of order because Pat may have to leave a little, knock off a little early. So we will do, we'll review the proposal for additional services, Amendment 13 for LDA. We'll review the latest request from the MSBA. So those are items 6 and 7. Then we'll go to item 4, major board updates and communications. Update on our Colliers team. Then we'll approve 2 prior meeting minutes, which we have to submit to the MSBA. And then next meeting dates and adjourn. So is there any public comment? And I don't even think we have anybody from the public here. Okay, moving on, any liaison reports? Nope. Good, moving on. So I will take a motion to take items 6 and 7 out of order.
So moved.
Okay, so made by Nancy, seconded by Sean.
Yes, please.
Okay, so we'll vote on that. Pat,
Yes.
Nancy? Yes. John?
Yes.
Chris?
Yes.
Sean?
Yes.
Ed?
Yes.
Greg?
Yes.
Kirk?
Yes.
And Carla, yes. Thank you. So we will start with, Mike, can you kick us off?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
So we had a discussion recently, I believe it was maybe the last 2 building committee meetings where we discussed the potential for asking the design team to continue their services. I think in between those 2 meetings, we actually met with the MSBA to have a discussion with them to make sure that anything we did, just to make sure how anything we did would affect the project basically, or could affect the project. And basically, from the MSBA standpoint, and Carla or Matt, I know you were on there as well, please feel free to jump in. But what I heard from the MSBA standpoint is, as long as we understand what we're doing, and as long as it's consistent with the local vote, which I believe it is, we can really continue on just with the understanding that I'll say a little bit at risk if we didn't get the vote or anything like that. Anything we do between now and the vote is just activity that you're potentially spending some money on now. And you might not have it if you didn't get the vote later. Now, the flip side to that is that if we can spend a little bit of money now and get a little bit of a head start, it could give us great benefits later. And I think that's what we've been really talking about. A couple of those benefits are the potential to get the bid done earlier. If you remember, if everybody remembers, when we look at the schedules that we've been presenting, the bidding has been happening in midsummer, which is really not the most ideal time to do a bid. What we've been talking about is the most ideal time to do a bid is kind of as the winter is ending and the spring is breaking, to get the contractor out there so that they can maximize the time in the ground, maximize the time with concrete and things of that nature, and not be spending money on winter conditions for concrete, things of that nature. In addition, another big benefit we previously talked about was that basically with our project round number of approximately $100 million, if we're talking a 3% escalation, that's about a $300,000 to $400,000 per month escalation. So if we can save a month or two or three, it's real money. It's 6 to 7 figures in that range. So to that end, we had a discussion last week with Lee and Jenny and asked them what did we think we could do between now and the vote, and would there be a benefit to it? And they actually said that they thought that they could do quite a bit and that they thought there would be a benefit to it. And basically, if we could allow them to continue on, we would basically be able to cut about 1 month. Is that right, Lee? One month off of the next phase of the project, the design of the project. So I think we were looking at about 11 months. So if we could cut a month off, we'd be able to finish that in 10 months after the vote rather than 11 months.
Correct.
The other thing that we talked about is that if we have a cost, and I'm sharing the proposal here, I think people can see the proposal in here. So we have a cover letter here. The proposal is for $500,000. The actual proposal from LBA is behind it. And it's basically saying if we start today and we continue through May 13th, that $500,000, we will reduce our schedule by about 1 month, or the design after that by 1 month. The other thing to point out is that it also reduces the overall design fee after the vote by that 500,000. So we're spending it now, we're not spending it later. If we didn't spend it now, you would still be spending that money later. And Lee, do you want to maybe just give us a quick highlight of kind of the things you're thinking about doing during this time period?
Sure. I was trying to put it in, after these discussions, I was trying to put it in really logical terms, like why. So I'll just say it like this. Typically during the document phases, we have a burn rate, right, of about $500,000 a month. But typically that also, about half of that goes to our consultants. But over the next 2 months, we really will have a very difficult time getting consultants involved because it's very complicated. Like they have little tasks and we don't, but if we just over 2 months, half of that would go to us. If over the next 2 months, we just focus on the architectural design things, the exterior and the interior, we would actually put a full team on those 2 items. And so think of it this way, instead of 1 month of 500, we do 2 months with us, half doing that. We can get, when we start design development, say we passed the vote yesterday, when we start design development, we typically have to spend a month or so hitting the plans, getting everything, new bases drawn, catching up to all the things, doing studies, doing all this stuff before we go to our structural engineer or anybody with this base plan and say, okay, this is what you're going to work on. We have to prepare it. So the ingenious thing that Mike came up with was, hey, if we actually do what is called design development, if we dive into exterior and interior design tasks, which I can explain in a second, over the next 2 months and I've checked with our office, we have a full team of the people who would be on the project. because we're just in this weird little lull, which is kind of good for them. Then what we would do is we would just hit it and even meet with a group or two of you in the meantime, such that on May 14th, the day after you pass, we actually can get the consultants going right off. Do you know what I mean? So we're actually saving time off our part to save their time. And thus, you know, those 2 months become a month of that. The kinds of tasks, I don't know if you need to know the actual tasks. I mean, basically, if you think about all the things you care about right now that we've been avoiding, it's what is the exterior design made of? What are the elevations? We haven't really looked at those materials together. When are we going to decide that? We're going to look at building and wall sections for this. How are we going to look at screens? Are we going to do this? And you would have a group of people we call the exterior design who we could show options to and build them in the model and show little renderings and show materials and talk about that stuff in earnest, not just as a placeholder, a good placeholder of what we're doing now. Then we would do the exact same thing on the interior. Many of you just saw some interior design drawings. They were not real. We put those together for the MSBA and for you because we don't have it modeled on the inside like that. We go through a whole process with you. It's a big building where we have an interior designer who did Swampscott, the whole team. And we would look at reflected ceilings, the floors, all the walls, all the views, all the glass, the stairs. We'd start to and show you colors and palettes a little bit and talk to you and get to a place where we've done design development, the fun stuff together. But honestly, it's the stuff that if you get that down, then you can move on and you can detail it for the rest of the time. So we have 6 to 8 people in our office who could work on this. And I and Jenny would coordinate their work. And our job would be because we have to keep up with the project, to do as much as we can that makes the most sense and get it out of the way and really do it right in the right order. That was what we had talked about. Was that an okay explanation?
Lee, I think that makes total sense. I think the only other thing I might suggest is we have a lot of design folks in the room, not just you and Jenny tonight, but like one of the other kind of catch-22s here is when you do tell the designer to get going, we want all the consultants to get going, but oftentimes they need those shells from you folks, right? Those basic layouts from you folks. And the fact of the matter is we can actually get those done over the course of this next month and a half, so that when you do get going, you actually have something to give to them, and they really can kind of get a jump start even a little bit faster on what they're doing as well.
Yes, that is how we're looking at it. We can do this because we have experience and we kind of see the path in front of us and how it works. If we didn't have a lot of experience, I would say don't do it, but I know how to do this.
And the people that you're using are the
Yeah.
same people you will be using.
They really are, and it's because I have them reserved for design development anyway. They're basically the team that worked on Swampscott and has that experience, and I'm already freed up. And honestly, I will tell you, your project is a big deal in our office. It's very important, and if I ask for a staff person, I will get them. That's how I look at it.
And I will also say that we're in this position because we have enough money left over in our account. So it presents us with a different opportunity and more opportunities. Some districts decide to do nothing and put the designer on hold for this time and just focus on the vote. Other districts would just keep funding the project, and then there are districts in between. So this isn't necessarily something that's common, but it's not something that's not common. In terms of internal conversations that we've had, the town manager, assistant town manager, Sharon Engstrom has been involved and on board. The superintendent, Pat and I, so we've kind of vetted this throughout, spoke with the MSBA as well on it. In terms, and Pat, I don't know, I don't want to put you on the spot, Pat, but you explained it really well about the money. The money that we are using is not going to be reimbursable by the MSBA, from the MSBA. It wouldn't be reimbursable if it was used after, later on, because of the limits set on the designer's contract. However, we look at the benefit of the $332,000 in cost savings with escalation of a month. Go ahead, Sean.
Sorry, my mute button disappeared just as I was ready to talk. So let me just play back and make sure I understood all that. So the proposal is for us to sort of continue with design work in anticipation of the vote. We can do it because we have money in the budget, and it will essentially shorten our timeline, allow us to get to build faster, allow us to take advantage of warmer months once the vote presumably passes, et cetera. Is that the gist of it?
That's it. Yep.
Yes.
I see Mike shaking his head. Okay. My only question is Carla, you mentioned checking in with the MSBA. I don't know if there's do we have an official determination from them or an opinion from town council that this is within the scope of the vote? We're good there? I see Jane shaking her head. Yes.
We've spoken with town council too. Sorry, I forgot to say that. We've spoken with town council. We had a meeting with the MSBA. We basically asked them, are we at risk if we move forward? How we would propose? They said, you're not at risk. We get it. But we won't participate, which we understood that as well.
Now, of course, the second
Right.
that
Okay.
since we're doing design development tasks and we're just doing some of it up front, it's all the same tasks that we would have done on May 14th with everybody. So everything we're doing is in alignment with the MSBA in the future and everything they need. We're just getting a head start. We're not outside of any box.
And as far as the town vote goes, the vote that was done, it was for the 2.2 million, basically through the end of June. We've been able to already accelerate that a little bit by tying into the timing of the regular town meeting and coordinating with the other project, again, saving a little bit of money there by doing one vote, and already been able to kind of shorten that up to the middle of May. So we've already gotten some savings there. This is going to give us even additional savings on top of that, but it's all it all ties out to exactly what was voted on 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago.
So we've
Thank you.
compressed our schedule. If we pass this, we will, and the vote, that 6 weeks during the vote, we will have compressed our schedule 2.5 months, basically. 6 weeks for the vote, and then this 1 month design gift. Putting us to a better spot with creeping more towards that beneficial time of awarding a contractor to the GC in March. And then that translates into, winter conditions and savings with that, and hopefully less risk by the contractor if they have that early on. And then at that point, we would look at our early packaging and see if those types of things are necessary or not.
You mean the earthworks and wells?
And the geothermal wells.
Yeah, it's likely, Mike, that we would not do an early package if we do this accelerated schedule. Is that correct? Likely, I'm not saying guaranteed, but likely.
I would say it's still probably a 50-50 even with this. I think the timing, the trick is to understand when can we get that out, and we don't want to be doing that so that the early package would be working all winter long, if you will. But that's something we would take a look at. I think either way, we would probably look at an early package for switchgear in the generator. I just did that on a project recently, and it seems to be working very well. And so I think from that perspective, we'd look for that. The geothermal and the soils would be something I would say we'll probably be discussing that around July or so, early July. Once we get the vote approved and once Lee and his team can really fully ramp up, then we can have those discussions a little bit more earnestly. Yeah.
Jane?
Thank you. I think one great way to think about this is that the schematic design, feasibility and schematic design came in early and under budget. And because of that, and because of the reimbursement, you know, and the work that this committee has done with our design team and our OPM, and the reimbursement, we have this additional funding that we can use to push the project forward. I will say that MSBA was very clear that, as Carla already stated, that we do not have a contract with them for this piece of work. That will come later post the vote and then their vote on April 30th. So, you know, we are at risk for that portion, but I do think it is consistent with the vote. Carla and I both watched the video over again. It was a great meeting in November of 22. And I think that it puts us in an advantageous position going forward. So for what it's worth, I wanted to share that.
And also another thing I was thinking of is the money that has been reimbursed and back in our coffers, that money stays. So this is the money, the original 2.2 that we had out there. So we have already gotten reimbursement back, and that stays with the town. We're not using those funds. We're using the funds that originally were set aside.
From the original 2.2. Yeah, thank you. Yep.
Yeah.
But those funds would be available right away after the vote, once it's been, you know, got past the so many days after the vote.
The
we'll be able to
reimbursement.
start, spending that money. So that would help us get to when we need to borrow.
What was the relevance of what you said, Carla, in terms of not using money which we've already got from MSBA? Why would we not? Why would there be a no-no as to using that?
Because I feel like we went to town meeting for 2.2 million.
Okay,
And so they granted us that, but they didn't say you can go back and use the money that gets reimbursed back.
Yeah.
why not?
I may,
Okay.
I think I'm moderately
Yeah.
aggressive and I think that feels better.
Plain and safe.
Yeah, I think, Carla, what you might be thinking of is I had actually proposed a potential option, I think at one of the previous meetings, of trying to accelerate not just for 500,000, but maybe even more than that. And that's where those additional funds would be coming in. So I think we felt it was more appropriate to stay within the original vote language of 2.2 million. And that's why we're showing the 500 now, not say $1 million now.
Yeah, we would need the town meeting to have appropriated it, and they've only appropriated 2.2. So once the vote comes in, that would release those funds to us.
But you're happy and town council is happy that the vote which authorized the 2.2 million allows us to do this. There's nothing in there which says, you know, if you want to do something different, you have to come back to us.
The town feels comfortable. I should say the town, all of us feel comfortable with that.
So the only risk that we have is if when the vote happens that everybody turns it down, we have that money which has been spent, but for which there is no immediate reward.
Exactly.
But that's a big issue, could be a big issue for some people, I would think.
Right. We presented this, we met with FinCom
Yeah.
last week, and this was brought up. We brought it out to FinCom as well. Yeah.
I think the big thing to remember is you're saving 2.5 months of additional steps. And how much is that again? A couple $100 grand or something?
300 grand, I think.
300,000,
Yeah, that's
450.
nebulous.
Yeah.
That's
In the gambling world, I would.
not really, because the cost of money, the value of money goes down over time. So if you spend money later, you're spending it with reduced value dollars. You may not understand this.
It's very complex.
How? When you take out a mortgage for 30 years, you get the money that you have taken out upfront in today's dollars. When you pay down that mortgage, you pay down in tomorrow's dollars, and tomorrow's dollars are not worth anything like what today's dollars are, which is why a mortgage is a wonderful, beneficial instrument, because you're paying with junk dollars and getting real dollars up front, right? We've all done that with a mortgage. We all realize that We take out a mortgage and we get out real dollars, and then as time goes on, those dollars get less and less and less and less, and it becomes much easier and easier and easier to pay the mortgage back. And it's the same with financing a project. You might say that we're escalating at 3% or something like that per month, but we're paying out those dollars later. We don't pay the contractor on day one all of the money. We pay it over 2 years or whatever it is. And those dollars that we're paying him are less and less value. This is my economics hat on, but
I might argue that they're more expensive, but go ahead, Pat.
I just want to mention, I mean, I think it's a good idea, John. I get everything that you're saying. The way I look at it is, as we go through this process, I don't think there's going to be very many times where we look back and say, geez, I wish we went slower. We have a chance to go faster, and it'll give us more options through the winter and into next spring when we go into the bidding season. So I think it makes a lot of sense if, you know, and we vetted out, I know Carla and Jane and Matt and town council have vetted out, you know, the use of the funds. So we feel comfortable with that. And I just think it's a good, you know, it's a good opportunity to speed things up. And John, I get it. There are some, you know, nuances to exactly how much, you know, how much is inflation going to be next spring? Is it going to be 2%? Is it going to be negative? Is it going to be 10%? We don't really know. But I just think if you look at it, like, I don't think we'll ever look back and say, geez, I wish I went slower. But we are likely to look back and say, geez, I wish we went faster. So, I mean, I fully support the, you know, the concept of doing this. I think LBA's ready to do it. They've got the team. They'll jump right on it, and it'll be productive. So that's all.
Ed?
Yeah, just to add on to what Pat was saying, I think the other thing that I would speak to as well, John, is that you know, this is an opportunity and that we're trying to be good stewards of the town's money. And it's all of the tax, you know, this is from all of the residents. And I think that's, you know, the key here is if there's an opportunity, whether it's you're discounting that money or not. And again, that piece of it is, you know, from an economics perspective is debatable. I just think it's one of those things where if we have an opportunity to, you know, one, you know, kind of speed it up and possibly get, you know, the project done, you know, earlier than expected, students in earlier than expected, but then also, you know, shaving money off of that as well. However you look at it, I just think that is a major component to, I think, how we need to be kind of good stewards of the project.
Thanks, Ed. Lindsay has a comment also that says possible opportunity to get in earlier before a school year as well, which is a huge benefit educationally.
In terms of schedule, this work is best done when school is in session, the actual design work I'm talking about, because we're going to have a couple of teams of people to look both here and some of the people from school. And then when June comes along, so doing this up front is beneficial to us because we have access to the principal and all the people and all these, you know, tech and all these people who are going to be part of this. And once June comes along and everybody disappears, including some of you, probably go on some vacations and stuff if you're allowed, it will make it more difficult for us to have those sessions.
Anyone else?
Well, and just to respond, the only way in which we could say we wish we'd gone slower is if it doesn't pass the vote.
Exactly.
So that is the, you know, that's the big question.
That's the risk.
So that's the risk. So we should not think that there's no risk to this. There is a risk to this. And if it doesn't pass the vote, we're going to all have egg on our faces for spending money which we're not getting reimbursed for, and it's not going to be immediately productive. I know we'll come back and that kind of stuff, but
right. That is
a risk. There is a definite risk here.
Yep. And that was also presented in my presentation that we did to.
So who accepts the risk? is this something which I mean, we're just a committee, we're not elected by anybody. The only people that can accept risk on a part of the town are the selectmen. They are elected, and they are political people, and they have to, they have to take their lumps if things go wrong. So perhaps we should recommend to the selectmen that we do this, select board, sorry. But I don't know that we have the authority to take on that risk. We as a committee. Am I right? Am I wrong? Is this something that really should be decided by the select board upon, with our input?
Committee that has the legal authority. The
Yeah.
building committee runs the project, not the select board or the town manager. So
And,
it's the committee as a whole.
and it's not even the select board. This is put forth by by the school committee. The school committee is the agency that requested this committee to be formed. The sponsoring agency.
Supposing we went to the school committee and we gave them this proposal and they said, "Are you crazy? We don't want to do this." Should we not give them the courtesy of having some input to this? I mean, I agree with this. This sounds very logical and rational.
Yeah.
And all that kind of stuff, but there is a risk. And the question is, who takes the risk? Who takes on the risk on behalf of the town, the taxpayers of the town? We are gambling taxpayers' money, and we better be very comfortable that we've got our ducks in a row and that everybody's on board, not just us. Select board, I would say, school committee. I'm just saying that we should not be the ones that are spending taxpayers' money or risking taxpayers' money.
Carla, if I could, just my thought on that is that every decision is, well, first and foremost, Matt's absolutely right, that the school committee voted this board or this committee to manage the project and act on behalf of the project. But the second part of that is every decision that this board has made has financial and schedule and everything else implications, whether it's choosing a hybrid ground source, air source system, or choosing, enrollment, everything that you're doing. So I think from my perspective, this isn't really much different than that. You guys are working together in collaboration. You've told the FinCom, you've informed people outside of this group, out of this smaller group, had discussions with the town manager, with the assistant town manager, town council, the MSBA. So I think that you have already reached out, but certainly if you feel that you need to reach out to more people, that's not for me to call, that's your call. But I do feel that it's consistent with what you've been doing all along.
Don?
Yeah, I mean, Mike mostly just said what I was going to say. Every dollar we've spent to date and will spend is essentially a gamble with taxpayer money until the project gets fully approved, right? So I don't see this as fundamentally any different as long as we have sort of a determination that it is within the scope of what was approved by town meeting.
Okay,
Chris?
thanks, Carla. Yeah, I think in terms of the recal project, the sponsor of that is the select board. And this sponsor is this committee for this project. That's the difference. So, I mean, I think our vote on this is going to be if we support it and want the blowback, if you will, on this. I have no problem putting this forward for me. I don't think it would be a problem on the select board either. We're going to vote on like an acclamation vote on April 1st as a board. But once again, I think both projects are going forward unanimous, but I could be wrong.
Thank you, everyone, for the discussion.
You need a motion.
Yes, please.
Okay. So I move to accept, make sure I'm doing this right, Architect's Contract Amendment number 13 for the J. Warren Killam Elementary School project, right, for additional services.
Is there a second?
Could we? Okay, Karen.
Who was the second?
Ed.
Ed, thank you. Okay. And we'll vote.
Could we
Oh, any discussion?
discuss this? Yes.
amount in that?
Yeah, I should say 500,000, the amount of 500,000.
I'm a little bit leery about the word additional services. It's not an additional service. It's a
Continuation.
relocation of money. People will read this and say additional services, $500,000 additional services. Are we paying the architect $500,000 more? I think
Extension of services,
Extension.
extension of design.
retiming of, I don't know.
Reallocating.
For us, it can be considered a continuation of services. We called it additional because that's a more technical term. But if you guys wanted us to, if you wanted to say that we're going to take the words additional services, additional and turn it into continuing.
Maybe acceleration of
Or
services.
accelerated, whatever you want us to say, we
Acceleration.
have no trouble saying because to us, it means the exact same thing.
I know it means to us.
But to you, it doesn't.
Yeah.
No, I think that makes sense what John's saying, because someone could look at this and be like, they just gave $500,000
Yeah, I can see the, the newspaper saying
Yeah.
$500,000
additional.
services.
Yeah.
So you tell us what, Mike, do you have a sense of what we would call this? Or everybody said either continuation of services.
I can certainly change that to whatever everybody wants, but that's, like you said, Lee, I'm used to additional services is kind of a technical term, but certainly don't mind changing that to make everybody.
To us, it is a straight line continuation of services, even though it's a bit intense.
Jane had the word supplemental services. How about that?
No.
No,
No.
continuation. of services.
Continuation is good.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
Not.
It's truthful.
That's good.
Yeah. New motion.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Move to grant the amendment number 13 for continuation of services for Lovely Bresinger to advance the design for the lump sum amount of 500,000.
Second.
Seconded by Ed. Any discussion? Seeing none, go for the vote. Pat,
Yes.
Nancy,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Chris.
Yeah.
Sean, Sean
Yes.
Brandt.
Did it not come through? Yes. Can you-
Ed,
Where did that,
Ed,
Yes.
thank you. Greg,
Yes.
Kirk,
Yes.
and Carla, yes, and the motion passes. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I should ask too,
Yes,
do we need to set up committees now?
I will write an email to you guys.
It might be good to have an XLT meeting next week to talk logistics next Monday.
Are you gonna need people?
Tuesday, it would have to be Tuesday.
Tuesday.
Because I'm in,
You're out, yeah.
Are you gonna request people on this committee to?
I want you to think about, all of you, I want you to think if any of you are interested in interior design or exterior design. And usually interior design is more the people in the school, although Carla and somebody else might. And exterior design is often somebody, I'm only guessing that Pat wants to be on that one and a couple others, but we are, so we want about 5 people on each one who can follow through with us. And I can give you.
How often would you meet?
Well, we'd want to meet at least twice in the next, maybe the first few weeks we don't, and then in the second month we meet twice or something like that.
Okay.
So it's not a heavy lift, but it's an important lift.
So if anybody, so we don't have to reconvene this group again. If anybody on this committee would like to be on an exterior design or interior design
Little core
committee,
groups, yeah. And you'll probably follow it all the way through.
working groups, if you could just shoot me off an email, so if we're putting those groups together, we can.
If you have bad taste, don't sign up. Jane?
Carla, just so you know, I think Pat did.
We know that you have good taste. It's funny.
I love the sucking up. Yeah, I've got some taste.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's good.
You're welcome.
I'll serve wherever I'm needed.
All right.
Just a clarification. During these 2 months of design development, you will be talking to your consultants. So, I mean,
Just a little bit, but no, we really can't sign them up too much because we really can't define their work. So this is mostly our work, getting it out ahead of time. And we will ask them if we have some overall questions, but what they're gonna do is hit it. For example, we already know pretty much what the structural system is, but there might be a couple column sizes that will change over time and things like that. So the reason this works is because it's so darn clean. It's really hard if I came to you as a structural engineer and say, I need 2 weeks of work from you out of a 2-year project. You wouldn't know what to do with it, like where to put it. So we're just our whole approach here is to front load this with our work, get ready to go, and then get everybody together and slave drive them.
okay, that surprises me, but that's okay.
Well, it's a really difficult thing in 2 months when we don't even have the vote through yet for all these people, and to figure out all the little things that they're going to do. That means that we would have to sign them up for a whole project that doesn't even exist yet. And then go backwards and figure out what portion of it they would get. Quite complicated because we have 28 consultants, by the way. And anyway, we will consult them.
But there are some basic fundamental coordination issues between structure
Yes.
and mechanical.
Mhm.
To avoid them getting in each other's way, which is usually a part of early design development. Sometimes, you know, in an office building, you have layers and sit above the ceiling, you know, you're here, you're here, you're here.
We feel like we have plenty of time to work through all coordination issues, especially if we focus on this stuff first and are ready for them.
Okay.
Plus, we do it quite often, and there won't be too many of those things, we hope. But I hear your concern, and we thought about it.
Thank you.
He knows too much,
No.
once again.
Now we're going to move on to item 7. Another item out of order to review the latest request from the MSBA. Mike, that's you again?
Yes, I'm just trying to make sure I give you the right screen. Share that screen. So item 7, latest request from the MSBA. So we did get an email from Carly from the MSBA about a week ago. And you can read through the whole thing. I know, Matt, you had it, and Tom and a few others did get CC'd on this. I think a decent chunk of this group here, but there was really 3 main questions here. And the first question was specific to square footage does not appear to be noted on color-coded spaces in the DESI submission. So that's a submission that's going to the Department of Secondary Education. And I'm going to jump to the second question, the timeline associated with filing the project notification form with the MHC. Basically, both of these were design technical items that Jenny followed up pretty much the next day, or actually it looks like Wednesday before lunch, and gave them those answers. And I think that the MSBA is good with those answers at this point. Happy to share the actual email if anybody's interested, but I think there was some visual aids that were provided as part of the first bullet here, and just some clarifications on the second. The third bullet here, the way she wrote this is a little funny. She said, we understand the district is retroactively voting to submit the SD submittal. Please provide this vote as soon as it's available, both in digital and hard copy. So it's not that we're retroactively voting it, or even retroactive isn't the right word, but what happened is we voted on this, but we haven't actually approved those meeting minutes yet. So that's what they need, is a certified copy of the meeting minutes. So they're asking, once we have a certified copy of those meeting minutes, can we send it to them? And it is actually on the agenda tonight. Assuming that we vote and approve those tonight, we can then ask the town to certify those officially tomorrow, and we can get a digital copy probably to the MSBA tomorrow, and then a hard copy in the mail to them, so they'll have it by the end of the week. So really, we'll have addressed all three of those questions once we get those meeting minutes approved and out basically tomorrow. That makes sense?
Yeah.
They
Thank you.
go into some other things about funding and cash flows and stuff, but that's for later. And they actually said that they will ask for that later, basically.
And just so you know, Jenny and even our team have been fielding multiple questions from them, even have met with them a couple of times going over plans and this and programs and all kinds of stuff, trying to get every little thing buttoned up because they're very exacting. And it will be perfect, I guess.
Great.
So I think we're in good shape there.
Any questions, anyone? Thanks, Mike. Okay. Okay, so now we'll go back to number 4, which we just wanted, because we were having this meeting, we wanted to give you an update, a major board update. And basically it was what I mentioned before, that we did a presentation, both projects did a presentation for FinCom last Tuesday.
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Yeah.
We thought it was gonna be short and sweet, and it ended up being an hour and a half.
Yeah.
They asked some pretty good questions, but we got a lot of good feedback from FinCom, and I think everybody's pretty much, they didn't vote, obviously, but I think everybody's pretty much committed to this project, which is a good thing. We will be having, this came from the town side, that we will be having on April 2nd, there will be a joint meeting of the Killam project and the Recalc project at 7 p.m. in the Performing Arts Center. This will be to update town meeting prior to the actual town meeting, and any major boards and the public. So that will be an in-person meeting. We're working on the school side, we're working on a presentation to do similarly to the presentation we did at town meeting for the feasibility and schematic design phase, the $2.2 million. So that is one meeting. The follow-up to that will be on April 16th at 7 o'clock, same meeting, but it will be over Zoom for those people who can't attend. So just to put it on your radar for anybody who would like to attend that as well.
That's April
2nd,
did you say, or 7th?
April 2nd at 7 p.m.
Okay.
That's in person in the PAC at the high school.
Okay. Yep.
And then the next one is a Zoom meeting on April 16th at 7 p.m. And then just a quick update, we started to resume our communications committee meetings because we feel like now is the time. And quite frankly, I don't know about you, but I've been kind of doing a straw poll and asking people if they know about the project. And there are a lot of people who still don't even know about anything that's going on in the town. So we want to find those rocks that they are underneath and unearth them. So, right, it's crazy.
It's crazy.
There is a Yes For group, and it's my understanding they will be putting signs up. They have a little bit more leeway on what they are allowed to do and say. So maybe that will kind of shake people from the trees and open up communications. Just a quick update. Thanks to all of our school and town staff, and to Chris for updating the website. If you go to the website, you will see some new pictures, front and center, and information on the vote as well. So if anybody has any suggestions, please send them over, because we want people to be able to go onto the website and kind of gather some information. And I forgot, we do have a proposed one-sheeter of our fact sheet that we will kind of pin to the top of the website too. Hopefully we'll cover that in this Thursday's communications meeting. So any suggestions from anybody on helping to further our communications, we would love it. we spend more time trying to decide if we are allowed to do what we want to do.
Right.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Carla, if I can just add
please.
really briefly, we have re-engaged with Dave Cartoonan, who did our videos, and so he sent us a script today. So we'll be reviewing that on Thursday as well, at the comms meeting, or Wednesday, whichever day we do the Killam comms meeting, because we also have the Recal comms meeting. So we'll be reviewing that, and we are, for both projects, pulling together a calculator for these two projects that people will be able to go in and put their home value and then check which box will work, for each project or both together, and to see how that will impact their tax requirements. And it'll be similar to what we've seen in the Nantucket example. So if you go to the Nantucket website, they have a whole page for their projects, and their residents can use this calculator. We really like it, and we've engaged with that that vendor who created that for them, and we'll share some more about that in our comms meeting. Okay.
Thank you, Jane. Okay, moving on to item number 5. And we're back to Mike on the update on the Colliers team.
Yes, so I think most everybody probably got an email, but just wanted to follow back. Shirley Ng unfortunately has left the Colliers team. We were sad to have her go, but we did wish her all the best. And we're currently working on filling that position for you folks. I talked with Derek in my office probably an hour ago, trying to get a little update right before this meeting. Carla, I should have at least one resume for you this week for you to take a look at, and probably have a meeting similar to what we had before when Shirley came on, where I think you and Matt and Tom and I had kind of like I'll call it an interview for the lack of a better word, like an introduction maybe to the individual, so we'll take a look at the resume. If the resume looks acceptable, which I assume it would be, we can have that introduction and see if you think that the individual will work. And if so, then we'll bring it forward to this committee for an official acceptance and acknowledgement. The MSBA will be looking for an update once we get that nailed down as well. And in the meantime, Farani is my assistant project manager. She's been working with Shirley and I kind of throughout this project anyway. I've asked her to maybe take a little more prominent role in making sure that she keeps me in line and make sure I get all the answers to the MSBA and all the answers to Jenny and Lee in a timely manner. But we're going to be working through that, and it should be short-lived, a short duration without that position. It was really kind of unexpected that Shirley was leaving. So just reporting that. If anybody has any questions or concerns, certainly happy to address them. But we're still here and we're still moving forward. And honestly, timing wise, it's probably not the worst time to. It's probably one of the better times to do it, because we are in that transition right now.
Yeah, and I'll echo, we were sorry to see Shirley go.
Yes.
She was a good check person to make sure we're staying on track.
I already told her if she decides she made a wrong decision, or if she has some buyer's remorse in a month, to call me back. And I intend to keep in touch with her and
Just throw money.
Yeah. Right. Great, thanks, Mike. Any questions? Okay. Okay, so we'll move on to approval of prior meeting minutes, which we'll send off to the MSBA. So we can start with February 3rd. That was our meeting, where we just had a quick online meeting to make sure we actually voted to submit the design to the MSBA.
Move to approve the minutes from February 3rd.
Thank you. A second?
Second.
Seconded by Ed. Great. Any discussion? Okay, go for the vote. Pat has stepped out. So Nancy?
Yes.
John?
Yes.
Chris?
Yeah.
Sean?
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Kirk,
Yes.
and Carla, yes, and the motion passes. Thank you. And then the next meeting is the February 12th
That
meeting.
was the oops meeting.
What was that?
That was the oops meeting, the 12th.
That was the oops meeting.
Yeah, it's all Zoom.
Gotcha.
Move to approve the minutes from February 12th.
Second,
Who was that second? Sorry.
Ed.
Ed, thanks, Ed. Any discussion? Nancy,
Yes,
John,
I was not at the meeting, so I'll abstain.
okay,
Unless you really want me to vote.
nope, Chris,
Yes.
Sean,
Yes.
Ed,
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Kirk,
Yes.
and Carla, yes. Thank you, everyone. That motion passes. Future agenda items, and does anybody have any suggestion for future agenda items? In terms of next meeting dates, we don't have any on the books at the moment.
Great.
Well, obviously things have changed.
Right.
So let us have a day or two to mull this over and then we'll get together with you,
Great,
figure this out.
anybody?
I think the only other thing I would have, Carla, at some point, we will be getting invoices. Maybe that could be a quick Zoom meeting, or we could just, kind of see once the design team has a chance to get their feet under them. If there's a time that works for them to have a meeting, then we can just piggyback on that.
Okay. We did all of our votes, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like an update on the test well, if there is an update. Maybe there isn't an update.
Thank you.
No update.
No update.
Update.
Do we we don't have anybody.
No, I
Okay.
haven't gotten my requests for proposals out to new contractors yet, so I will advance that to the top of my agenda.
I'll entertain a motion.
motion to adjourn.
Second.
No,
What was that?
Ed,
Ed.
no discussion.
Seconder.
Nancy,
Yes.
John,
Yes.
Chris,
Yeah.
Sean,
Yes.
Was it,
Ed.
did she not?
Yes.
Greg,
Yes.
Kirk,
Yes.
and Carla. Yes. Thanks, everyone. We're adjourned. Thanks for
Night,
coming.
everyone.
Let's went to my.
So long.